God's blessings, everyone. My name is Bill Brandel. For this video discussion, I chose Mercy Otis Warren. In terms of assessing Warren's historical position against the questions posed in Laurel Thatcher Ulrich's classroom material critique of how Betsy Ross became famous, like many other historical figures, Warren is a mixed bag. On the one hand, she was clearly an outspoken advocate for liberty in her preserved writings. On the other hand, it appears from reading several historical accounts, she was more muted in her personal life, promoting the Republican motherhood concept, like many others, including Abigail Adams of their time. After completing this research, I placed Warren in the camp of deserving high accolades and a rightful place in history. Setting modern anachronisms, biases aside, I would not fault her in any way for her late 18th century personal life. To that point, there are people today who hold their personal views in check while being extremely outspoken on social media. Why should Warren, or anybody else for that matter, be held to a higher standard? Mercy Otis Warren and her husband James were a legitimate late 18th century power couple. They were closely tied and often corresponded with the likes of George Washington, John and Abigail Adams, Thomas Jefferson, Alexander Hamilton, Patrick Henry, and Samuel Adams. Thus, I do not think that professional historians needed to embellish or enhance her story to make her more interesting. She was the real deal. For sake of time, I'm going to only briefly cover her bio here. She was born in 1728 in an upscale society family with a father who was a lawyer and a state representative. She married James Warren in 1754. James Warren himself was an accomplished man who was Speaker of the Massachusetts State House and eventually achieved the rank of Major General in the Continental Army. Through their saved correspondence, James and Mercy exchanged, it's clear that he held her in high regard, not only as a wife and mother, but as an intellectual and an equal. Over 86 years of life, Mercy Otis Warren was a patriot, an outspoken supporter of the Bill of Rights, and an esteemed playwright and author. In 1788, her and Eldridge Gerry wrote a pamphlet titled Observations on the New Constitution and on Federal and State Conventions. Collectively, they wrote, quote, "The rights of individuals ought to be the primary objective of all government and cannot be too securely guarded by the most explicit declarations in their favor," unquote. In 1805, Mercy Otis Warren wrote a 1,200-page, 3-volume history titled History on the Rise, Progress, and Termination of the American Revolution. While it's no longer used by professional historians for factual purposes, it does offer fascinating insight into colonial American life. In my research, I came across an interesting book, a modern book, titled The Forgotten Founders on Religion and Public Life by Daniel Dreisbach, Mark David Hall, and Jeffrey Morrison. In it, they write, quote, "Among the forgotten founders, Mercy Otis Warren has been particularly neglected. Because of the particular circumstances of her upbringing and her social position as an adult, she was one of the few women who had a public voice. Through her writings, she contributed to the public debate over independence and the controversies over the ratification of the U.S. Constitution," unquote. I use the above as my primary basis for certifying that Mercy Otis Warren deserves her place in history. I also reference a 1954 book titled A Woman's Dilemma, Mercy Otis Warren and the American Revolution by Rosemarie Zagari. Quote, "For a time, it looked as if the American Revolution itself would happen without the Otises. Mercy's father and brother withdrew from the political realm. A most unlikely event occurred. Mercy herself stepped into that arena they had vacated. As a woman, she could not vote or hold public office, but she could wield her pen. Sensing both the need and the opportunity, Mercy took a remarkable step of picking up the mantle that her male relatives had dropped," unquote. In closing, Mercy Otis Warren appears to have been a fascinating woman, one who can serve as an inspiration not only to women, but to all of us today. I hope you found this recap to be of value. Thank you.